And he was like, all right, let's do these and see how they feel.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, we were smoked.
Welcome to Adventure Live. This is Head Adventure Dave from Race That Go Adventure. Our guest today, Suzie Snyder, reigning U.S. National Xterra champion, 4 times champion now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to talk definitely about your experience there and the changes they had at that race. You're obviously a Wahoo training plan manager. I want to talk about some of those changes with the Sufferfest and the launch of Wahoo Systm. And your background as a strength conditioning coach and obviously a master's in strength conditioning and exercise science from Springfield College. So Suzie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great to see you again.
Great to see you too. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's been a crazy year or so for, I think, all of us, right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe one of the things to jump in and talk about it, and I think as you know, as a professional triathlete, you see it for yourself, the athletes you coach, sure everyone in the Wahoo system. How have you dealt with the pandemic, and what are you seeing as kind of what you've dealt with or how you've adapted, and kind of advice or what you're thinking about looking forward in the year ahead?
I think we all, I don't know, maybe just speaking for myself, I've kind of just taken it as a time to just focus on what I have to do and just do it. You know, there's not a lot of extracurricular stuff going on, so it almost makes it easier to just do your day-to-day stuff. You know, you get up, I train, I work, I train again, I work some more, I have dinner, and I go to bed. And it makes for a pretty boring life. But, you know, this year has been a lot better with the return of races. So I think that's lifted everybody's moods and spirits a little bit, or a lot, because I know we all missed a couple things about racing, you know, the actual racing, but also the camaraderie of seeing our friends and everything that comes along with it, just the social aspect. So I know that's made it a lot easier for me, having recently moved to Colorado during the pandemic.
Right.
You know, it was really hard at first because there was nothing going on. I only knew a couple of people, and they didn't even want to hang out. So, right.
Everyone didn't know we didn't know, and even the mindset from you know, race organizations, you know, as a race producer for Race That Go, you know, it was kind of, though, we don't know. We're going to try and find ways to produce events and try and make things happen, but there was a lot in there. I think it's very promising that people finally accepted or realized that outdoor racing events are safe. And I mean, there's steps you have to take, and you still have to be smart. But I think that that's a very welcome shift, that we've seen here, and definitely seen a growth in you know, the number of events we've been able to hold on our end, and nationwide we're seeing that. So it is great seeing racing coming back in full throttle and be able to enjoy that. But I think you're right. I think the camaraderie aspect, and especially, you know, there's something about off-road tri that's kind of unique, right? It's its own culture. Maybe touch on that, what you've seen in the friendships and relationships you've built, you know, over the years, and what's come out of just being an off-road triathlete.
Yeah, I think it's just, I've made such good friends in the sport. You know, when I started racing triathlon, I basically started with Xterra. And I was living on the East Coast at the time. And so I made a bunch of friends on the East Coast. You know, they were my first Xterra friends.
Right.
And then I started dabbling in road tri, and never really, I felt like the people were totally different. Never really made friends in road tri. You know, people were nice, but they were just fake nice. You know, they were, they didn't want to really be friends. Unlike the people in Xterra, like the first people that I met at my first couple of races, I'm still friends with today.
That's awesome.
Keep in touch. It's just, I don't know, the people are so different. I think we just have this and I know Road Tri has their own like shared love of the sport, and they're so into it that it's a whole, I don't know, it's just, I think people in Xterra, we love the sport, but we love, or we just value the ability to make friends around the world and across the country. And because we only see each other at a few events a year, and a lot of those people that I first met don't even do it anymore, but they're still following my results on Facebook and commenting, oh my god, I remember the first year of racing and when you were an amateur, and yet and it's just like everyone is so genuine, and I find that no matter how much time goes by between seeing them, it's just like yesterday when we do talk or see each other again. And
yeah,
I don't know if it's because the nature of off-road racing is so hard that it's so physically and emotionally demanding and exhausting that by the end of it, we're just so happy to be done and, commiserating with each other and just happy to know that you weren't alone in that suffering. And I think it's such a bonding experience, I guess. I don't really know.
Totally. No, that definitely makes sense. And I think that parallels both myself as a racer and as a race producer, absolutely seen. I guess one of the questions, a couple of things that stem from that is we get this question a lot from road triathletes, and they're scared or they're just not sure. What advice do you give for a road triathlete that says, this off-road thing, I keep hearing about it, you know? What advice do you give for those that are kind of on that shelf and thinking about
it? Probably that it's okay to be a little scared. A little bit of healthy fear can be motivating.
Yep.
But don't let it paralyze you, I guess, because, like anything, if you overthink, you like paralysis to analysis, you overthink it and then you freeze up and then bad things happen, especially on a mountain bike. So I say, go into it with an open mind, keep your expectations low, just get on a bike, a mountain bike, a trail, any kind of trail, doesn't matter, doesn't have to be technical or difficult. Just get on a mountain bike on the trail and see what you think of it. If you like it, do it again and keep doing it. And maybe gradually, take a lesson and learn some skills. And I do think that it's really important to take some mountain bike lessons or learn from experienced mountain bikers right from the start, because I didn't do that. And I finished, the first couple of weeks of mountain biking, I borrowed John Slyer's wife's mountain bike because she was pregnant. And John was like, yeah, take it. There were Shimano SPD pedals on it. I didn't have shoes. I'd never mountain biked in my life.
Right.
So I put my sneakers on top of those little pedals and I crashed all over the place. I finished bleeding like every ride and this was in Grafton, like one of the rockiest places I've ever been. And for some reason, I guess there's something in my personality that was like, oh, that was cool, let's do it again. Whereas some people probably would have been like, that was a terrible idea. Why did I do this?
That's a terrible idea. Let's do it again.
Never do it again.
It definitely does take that mindset. And it's funny hearing you say that. I think back to my start as a mountain biker, and I was a roadie that took like a long break and then got my first mountain bike from like a sales contest from where I was working. And the same thing, I got clipless pedals, I jumped right into it. And I was so bloody and crashed so often. And I don't know if I was a glutton for punishment, but you're right, it is. And the reality is the design of the mountain bike and the suspension and all the technology we have today is so much better. Even going from the V brakes to the disc brakes, just in so many ways. But I think that's great advice that, to get some training, to get experience, not be so afraid. And I think that the biggest piece is even if you're, you know, a high level achieving road triathlete, even if you've done an Ironman or whatever, lower your expectations and enjoy the ride. I think it's easy to lose the experience component of it, right? Get caught up in the competitive, I've got a podium, I've got to win, and that's important. But I think you're right, especially for the first timers, maybe it's just, you know, get the experience and see what it is. I think that it is a very different life experience. I mean, it's clearly I'm, you know, part of the addicted as well, but somehow keep fitting it in. And we actually produced our 3 off-road tries this year for the first time, which is wild to think where, you know, where we started from. So, you know, so that's good advice. And I was going to ask you about first timers, but it's kind of the same thing, really. It's just gain experience.
I mean, as far as, or in terms of experienced road triathletes specifically, it can be really hard to dial down your competitive nature when you get into a race that, like, you know, you come to Xterra for the first time and the gun goes off and it's just in your nature to go all out from the gun, you know. And on a mountain bike, if your skills are not, even if your skills are really good, a lot of times you make mistakes because you're trying to go too fast, and it just, you know, I still make mistakes, but I think it's really important for the newcomer crowd to just like really remember that you got to just take it easy and not try and push the effort so much, because you're going to make mistakes and crash and end up going slower than had you just like taken it down a notch to begin with. So I think that's kind of just like rein in your intensity.
Rein in the expectations. Yeah, definitely. Good advice. Sage advice.
Yeah.
So just talking about, again, congratulations on repeating, coming back, you know, and being the U.S. national champion again. What races were you able to do prior to that? What did you change? Obviously, we kind of had a shortened season. So what was your lead up, and what do you attest, or what do you think was the biggest piece that made the difference? Because I know you've had some challenges besides moving and all that. You mentioned, I was reading about the vocal cord dysfunction. So I want to touch on that and understand what you've dealt with that, because I'm sure there's other people that don't know what that is and how you've overcome that. So I guess kind of asked you a combo question there, but jump on any piece of that.
Well, I guess the season leading up, so, you know, I didn't race at all in 2020. Or I guess I did a couple of, you know, virtual races. When I moved here, it was fall. It was about a year ago. My mom and stepdad have a place up in Breckenridge, and they come out in winters, and they primarily snow ski. But so I was going up on the weekends and spending pretty much all my weekends up there, because, you know, I haven't spent a lot of time with them because we've been living on different sides of the country. So I kind of, as I started spending my weekends up there skiing and just spending time with them, I was like, you know, I'm really not doing the training that I normally would or really need to win races. But you know what, maybe that's okay. You know, I'm almost 40. I've had a good career. Let's just see what happens this year. You know, I'll kind of do what I want to do through the winter. I was training really hard during the week, but the weekends were just a little more relaxed. I would still go running or hiking or fat biking or whatever, but I was kind of taking the weekends a little bit more relaxed. And you know, through the winter, I didn't really expect races to be happening, at least in the early part of the year anyway. And then vaccines started rolling out, and I spoke to Trey, and he said, oh yeah, we're definitely having Alabama. And I was like, oh shoot. Well, I can't miss Alabama. That's my favorite race. I won it like the last 4 years. I can't not go. So I ended up driving 4 hours out to Grand Junction twice to get my 2 vaccines in March and April in order to go to Alabama.
Wow.
And I went out and raced, and I was kind of like, you know what, I'm not really expecting a whole lot. I'm hoping to be top 2, 3. If I win, awesome.
Right.
The only racing I had done were a couple of fat bike races that were basically time trial, on your
Yes.
own, go out and time trial up in Leadville. So, 10,000 plus feet. It was just a sufferfest just to suffer because, I missed the intensity of racing. So I went out and raced.
Yes.
And so that was the only racing I'd done. And so I go to Alabama, finished third. I had a terrible swim, had a good bike, terrible run. My quads were cramping, awful. And I was like, you know what? For not really planning to come to this race, that's all right. I was really just happy to be there and happy to see everybody and race and just be back in it.
Yeah.
But afterwards I was kind of like, I can do better than that. I'm not really ready to accept just third place. Of course. So I kind of picked up the training and started hanging out with Mike Dorr, one of the top men's Xterra guys. He lives up in Beaver Creek, and started hanging out with him and training together, and that kind of turned into a relationship. But anyways, he's been an amazing training partner. So I was up there every weekend from like mid-May to the present. And it was great leading up to Beaver Creek because we could get out and ride. We couldn't actually get on course until June 1st because the trails are closed for elk calving.
Yep.
But just riding up there at that elevation and that terrain, and there were a couple of like town series races. Vail has an amazing series of town series races, both trail running and mountain biking.
Yep.
So I did a couple, training races and the GoPro games. I did 3 events in 2 days, which was exhausting. But so much fun. Yeah, it was so much fun. And just being up there and with a bunch of Xterra people and Mike and people who love to train, like, it's been so refreshing and has made training fun again because, I've just been training alone.
Solo, yeah.
Long, that it's been really refreshing and kind of remotivating to get out and keep training hard. So Beaver Creek, I did pretty well. I got second there. Still had those quad cramps that I got in Alabama. So I was like, man, I don't know what the heck is going on. I keep cramping. And then didn't really have any races, I don't think, between Beaver Creek and Nationals. So, and of course they changed the format to duathlon.
Right, because the algae in the lake.
Yeah, and we only had a couple weeks.
So with your quads, you're like, oh my God, now what, right?
Yeah. So I did 1 or 2, training duathlons beforehand. We only had like 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks to do this, but did the best we could. Was fine in training, haven't cramped in training at all. I go to nationals, cramp again.
Oh my Lord.
So I don't know. I think I've determined that I push so hard when I get in a race that it's just beyond my training level. And
have you tried tweaking your nutrition or playing with that?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you found? I quick little plug. I found Infinite and did a custom blend, and I found out that I didn't get enough salt, and I was able to survive Leadville because I did that for the first time this year. And then I just did unpaved in Pennsylvania, just did my first gravel century, and no cramps.
Yeah.
Did a 100-mile race with no cramps, which is just like me, where kind of like you're saying, like you get in that habit where you push so hard in a race at a certain junction you're getting, and that kills you, right? Just completely sidesteps your efforts. Now you got to deal with those cramps. You have to slow down and all those gains and all the things you've accomplished. So what have you found, or what tweaks or secrets, or what things have you discovered from these? I know it's personal, but what have you found that seems to help you?
Well, I think the cramps are a function of muscle fatigue more
Yep.
than nutrition. So I've tried to just take in more calories and more nutrition to
Yep.
try and just keep up with the amount I'm burning. But I think there's also an intensity factor where I'm just pushing too hard, and it's really just damaging the muscles. And then, you know, there's a point where they just can't go that hard anymore.
They stop.
But I found that I was having an issue like keeping down my gels and nutrition in like 2018 and 19. And I started using Martin gels this year, and those have been much better, actually. Keep them down, and my energy through the race has been a little better with that.
Those are more of a liquid base?
They're actually a gel. They're called
gel, okay.
It's like Jello. It's like a kind of a solid gel.
Interesting.
Where, you have to actually, like, you squeeze it out of the package and it comes out in like one solid blob, and you kind of just have to swallow it down whole. It's kind of trippy, but I guess the theory is it completely bypasses your stomach and goes straight to your intestines to then get sent out to your muscles and blood. So it doesn't give you, stomach distress or anything, because it doesn't have to be digested.
Yeah.
So that's worked for me in terms of, I guess, keeping down my nutrition.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, because it's not going to help you if you can't either get it in or keep it in. So
right, no doubt. Well, definitely the intensity of endurance sports, whatever types, that is one of the big challenges, right? You're burning way more, ridiculous amount of calories, and I think a lot of athletes don't realize how intense they are pushing. And you run out of rope, literally. You don't find a solution. So that's a good thing. Maybe I'll try that too. It's and hopefully some of our viewers and listeners will give that a shot. I haven't tried that particular product, but very, very interesting concept, because you're right that I know I've felt it on long rides or long races that you get to a point where you can't even eat, like your body just doesn't want to. You've been riding so hard, your stomach muscles are tight, and suddenly you've lost your appetite. Yeah. You're like, well, I know I need to ingest calories, but I can't touch another Cliff Bar or whatever, Bobo, whatever. I can't eat it, right? Yeah. So finding interesting solutions, but that sounds interesting. Sounds like something we're trying.
Yeah.
Cool. So talk to me a little about you. I read something about you found you now have vocal cord dysfunction. What is that? And I'm curious what you've done to offset or compensate for that.
Well, it's basically just your vocal cords, they should, when you talk, they move, they contract and relax. But if you're not speaking, they should just stay relaxed, and relaxed is like an open position. So they kind of sit in the back of your throat, and if you're not speaking, they should just be relaxed and open. But with vocal cord dysfunction, when we start working hard and breathing harder and faster, they actually constrict. So it narrows your airway, kind of like asthma or, like a bronchospasm. So it just makes it harder to get oxygen in, harder to get it exhale. Your muscles aren't getting the oxygen they need. Right. And there's really not much you can do about it, except a couple of breathing techniques, and really focus on your breathing, and like you can almost control them just by focusing on it and various breathing techniques. So it's it gets really it starts limiting your performance for sure.
I'd imagine, yeah.
Like up at race intensity, I have to focus really hard on my breathing. Basically like tempo, effort, and higher is like, you can't just not think and go. I have to just constantly be aware of it and try and keep my breathing open and relaxed and breathe more, belly breathe, diaphragm, really try to get out of my chest where you get that rapid, shallow chest breathing. Death of me. So I have to get down and belly breathe and kind of like pursed lip breathe. That almost like forces my vocal cords open for some reason. And it's really just a mental battle with myself, and like, because the harder you push, the more restricted you are. And then gets really frustrating because you're trying to go fast and you want to go fast, but your body's slowing you down because it's not getting the oxygen it needs.
Right.
So, and that could be part of my cramping issue too. I'm just not getting the oxygen.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. It's speaking as an athlete and as a race producer, it's refreshing to hear that even at your level, these common things are things you are day to day, right? That the nutrition and the breathing and being okay to adapt your plans and your outlook on the races and what can happen. And I think that mental aspect of how you kind of balance all of that. So it's impressive, but it's also really refreshing from, that at your level, those things don't change, but those are common. And I think that is also some of the grounding of the sport of off-road triathlon, is that everyone's dealing with the same course, the same challenges, and it is a bit of adapting to overcome. I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah. I mean, we all are human after all.
We're all human. So obviously you've got to lead up to Worlds. Thoughts on Xterra Worlds? Wonderful to see it back in Hawaii. Hopefully, knock on wood, everything goes smooth. I wish them much luck. I wish you much luck. Tell me anything that your thoughts on Worlds and how you're preparing for that that's coming to a theater near you.
Yeah, well, hopefully. The Xterra crew said they're gonna give us some sort of notice or info, hopefully this weekend or next week, about whether the race is going to happen.
Yep.
So I've been really kind of looking forward to that. And even still, if they say it is a go, I guess there's always the chance that it could still be canceled. So
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we know what happened with Ironman. They decided to move it. Obviously that's a larger event in scope. Yeah. So I think that plays into it, and hopefully, they can make it happen. So, but
yeah, I'm really hopeful. It should be an awesome event with the 25th anniversary, plus, having the trail run the same weekend in combination. I think it will be a really fun, exciting kind of weekend, just because it is, it's the 25th. It should be a big celebration.
Should be a big deal. Yeah, I'm jealous that I'm not going to be there. I'm focusing on next year.
Yeah.
As an athlete, it's, my balance is producing. We're actually, looks like we've achieved our goals. We have 2 left. Have done 15 events in 2021, which is our largest year ever. But it's also meant that as a racer, I was only able to do EX2 in Maryland, and that's it. And just wasn't enough to put anything together to get qualified. So but it'll be exciting to hear all about it, and I'm hoping it goes off, and that you do extremely well. There's a great opportunity. You've placed well there over the years. I think that your performance and the things that you're doing place you in the running, if no doubt. I mean, obviously there's some very stiff competition. There's amazing athletes at that level, but that should go well. Shift into 2 other things. One's kind of near and dear to the heart. I know we've touched on it in our messages back and forth. have you jumped into the gravel racing scene at all? And what are your thoughts on that, gravel racing and gravel triathlon?
I've done a little bit. I had a cyclocross bike that I was riding for gravel events. I did a couple of gravel events in Northern California when I lived in Reno.
Yep.
And those were pretty gnarly courses, like quasi mountain bike courses, like the actual, there were paved sections in between, but the dirt,
Right.
a lot of the dirt sections were pretty rough. And the cross bike was just not friendly for that.
No.
Overgeared.
The handling of a cross bike and the limitation of the wheels, the tire size, absolutely. It's funny. I see a lot of people do that, and great for your first ones, but you're right. Get a real gravel bike.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I upgraded. I got a new Cervelo, and
Very nice.
I did here in Boulder. There's a ton of gravel road, so my coworkers, they have are into it, and so we do almost every week we do a ride together, and it could be road, gravel, mountain bike, whatever, but one day a week we go out and ride. So they've shown me a lot of the good gravel around here, and so I've been riding in a little bit more, and I did steamboat gravel, the 100-mile course. And I only had 38s on.
Right.
Like I didn't even go terribly wide, but it made such a difference, and I didn't finish the race. I mean, I was ready to be done because I went hard for that 100 miles, and I was wiped at the end, but my body didn't hurt nearly as bad, and hearing, I had all gears I needed, and it was fairly enjoyable, at least for most of it.
Cool.
So yeah, I haven't done too much gravel, like in terms of racing, but I like it every now and then. It's just a good change of pace, and I just like variety, so mixing up, and there's less traffic on the gravel roads too, so
no doubt.
a little bit safer training too.
So, there's only a few of them in the country right now, but what are your thoughts on gravel triathlon?
Sure, why not?
Right. So,
I would much prefer mountain bike any day of the week. I just think the demand of the actual mountain bike skills, I just find a lot more interesting. Gravel riding for me is still a lot like it's road riding, basically, because it's not technical enough to really demand too much. Whereas road riders might find it like extremely technical, or more
right.
So I think it's a great way to get more people off the paved roads and off the busy streets, and I think that's awesome. As far as gravel tries go, I don't know that I would really get into them. I would still prefer Xterra. So, but if that gets more people into it, then cool.
Yeah, well, I think it's the accessibility, and also the one of the challenges, quite frankly, from a production standpoint, is locations where you have that perfect mix of an open water swim location, good mountain bike trails and trail running, and sufficient parking infrastructure, and getting all that to line up in one place, and to get the permits and insurance and all that. It's a tall order. It's a lot. I mean, we've been successful, but we've also had a lot of, I can tell you from the race production, from the backside, we've had to do a lot of changes or switch locations for things because of that. So it's just one of the things that we're exploring, and it's just good to get feedback, and I think that is the key. I think the biggest thing is the accessibility to bring people from road to gravel, and then gravel to true off-road. I think it might be an easier path to introduce them to an event where it's slightly off-road and there's a trail run, is kind of thinking. So we'll see where that goes, but that's one of the things that we're exploring, as well as, additional gravel events. And it's funny, the gravel bikes are amazing how capable they are. And maybe as a mountain biker, so in our large course, we have a mega course, which is 100 miles for September, when we just did the Jersey Gravel Grinder, and we added an option for single track. And I think about half of them did it, and a lot of people were like, "That was really hard." And I'm like, "That was totally doable. What are you talking about?" So it is kind of, I guess it's the experience, like you were saying, and where you're at. And we have to remember, a lot of these people haven't been riding mountain bikes for over a decade and have that mentality that, oh, this is easy. But what's easy could be scary until the mental aspect. So that's always interesting.
Yeah.
Just shifting gears again, let's talk about some of the changes at Wahoo. Obviously, Wahoo bought Sufferfest. And I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that eventually it became a Wahoo branded product and system. But and looking at the app and looking at what they've done, they've added a lot to it. They've had swimming workouts, they've had strength, they've had yoga. What are you seeing, and what feedback are you getting from athletes and in your place over at Wahoo on the feedback on system?
Yeah, overall, the feedback's been pretty good so far. The diehard Sufferfest, like the original Sufferfest diehards, are a little bit resistant to change. They're kind of like, it's watered down, it's not as hard, it's yada yada, which they like their like just bloody hard true Sufferfest workouts, more for just the way you feel afterwards, like feeling like you have to smash yourself in order to get a good workout. Where we've just, the company has come a long way. Like, when David started the company, it was literally just him making a workout and putting video to it to make his own training rides more tolerable in the basement of his whatever. So he shared those with his friends, and his friends were like, "Dude, you could make money on this if you sell it." And he was like, "Really? Okay." Yeah. And then and other people like him bought them and loved them. And then as it actually became a company, he was like, maybe we should do this better. And he hired Neil Henderson to start actually creating like solid workouts that are have a sport science basis, where, okay, this workout will actually make you faster,
right?
And if you follow this training plan, it'll make you faster, rather than just beating yourself into the ground every day, because that doesn't make you faster.
Right.
So over the years, it's been a very gradual shift from a smash fest to a well-designed training platform. And I think the originals are having trouble accepting that, but the majority of people are finding it much more approachable, less intimidating. There's so much more variety in the app now that there's, we're still working on the multi-sport content. So swimming and running is lagging behind a little bit, but we've got a ton of yoga and cycling and strength training. I worked with Jeff on the new strength training content and progressions this year. So we've I think doubled or tripled the strength training progression. Got a lot more recovery based mobility sessions and like stability. We've broken the strength content into so many different categories that it's just a lot more diverse and kind of more applicable to different populations, like off-road riders, multi-sport, time trialists, general cycling, like if you don't really have a specific area. And so I think we've done a good job of branching out into more areas to just be more appropriate for more people. And there's a lot of good stuff coming too, especially with running. We have,
Hmm.
we hired a woman who's really focused on getting more running content out and bringing the running up to where cycling is, and trying
Awesome.
multi-sport there as well. So yeah, I don't know, we wrote like over 700 training plans for this
Wow.
new system app, all by hand.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I am sure I got a message this morning asking about one of the training plans and about why it was the way it was. And I was like, I'm not really sure. I might have just screwed up. I mean, there comes a point when you just write that many plans.
Right. There's
Human
a
error
lot in there.
comes in.
Get tweaked.
So I apologize if anyone loads a training plan and is like, what? Yeah, there could be, so we worked really hard on that. And, the dev teams have worked really hard on they had to rebuild the app from the ground up. So.
Right. Oh, that's obvious. That it's totally different. It's clean. I saw already the calendar view is beautiful. The way it schedules all the workouts. The integration with Strava is instantaneous. So it looks very promising. I mean, I'm just starting to make that shift.
Yeah.
As I was kind of using that a little bit, still Zwifting a little bit, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I feel like this version of system, like this is the MVP. It's really just like the bare bones, launchable, like what can we put out to the public without completely, embarrassing ourselves. And so there's so much more that, we're trying to like,
from.
Yeah, especially on the sports science side, we have a lot of projects that are done that just haven't been implemented into the app yet. So there's a lot of stuff that we're like, come on, get it out there.
Let it out. Let it be free. Let people know.
Yeah. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. Anything from the strength plan? Obviously, it's great because obviously all this can be home based, which obviously is a huge thing right now. I mean, having the interaction with the app and obviously going beyond the cycling. Anything in terms of tools or anything that people should look to be getting to participate in some of the strength workouts? Anything specifically you recommend? Or
no, our strength workouts are really minimal in terms of equipment. Okay. Because we want to make them as accessible as possible. So we don't require any weights. We do say that if you want to add some difficulty, you can fill up a couple water bottles and hold them as weights. That's like 2 pounds.
Yeah.
The progressions themselves, it's not really true strength training or resistance training if you're thinking in terms of weight. It becomes a muscle endurance progression, essentially. The number of exercises increases and the length of time you do them increases throughout the program to make it harder rather than adding more weight.
Gotcha.
But we do, the exercises themselves do get harder through the progression. So, it might start with like a 10-minute workout on the first level and then, finish with like a 20 or 30-minute workout. And it's
right.
A lot of the exercises are changing throughout. Sometimes you're adding a weight or you're going from 2-leg to 1-leg. I tell you, when Jeff and I were running through, he outlined the workout and he was like, all right, let's do these and see how they feel.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, we were smoked. So we had to change a lot and we were like, oh, this is too much.
Too much.
So it was, I feel like some of the workouts in the, later end of the progressions, like they're hard, even though you're not really adding weight, especially the dynamic ones, which have a lot of plyos. They're hard. And the upper body focus ones, when you're doing all upper body and core, your arms just, they can only take so much. So Just because it's body weight doesn't mean like, oh, just blow it off like, oh, that's not going to be hard enough, or that's going to be too easy kind of thing.
Surprise.
Yeah, they get pretty hard.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think the only equipment really you need, we use a chair to do Bulgarian split squats, a yoga mat, what you call it, like a resistance band, or a like an inner tube, like a bike tube. You can
Right,
use
that always
show
works.
you how to use for some of the band exercises, which really we started doing last year during COVID. Because we put out some strength routines that were more upper body focused to kind of take the place of swimming for a lot of the multi-sport.
Right. A lot of us couldn't get to a pool, right?
Yeah, so we were using some bands for shoulder work.
Just shifting back to racing. So beyond Worlds, what else? What's next for you, Suzie? What else are you looking at as target events at this point, coming either the close of this year or into next year?
I don't know yet. Yeah. So Mike and I are going to go down to Arizona in a few weeks, get some warm weather training time. And
nice.
If Worlds is going to happen, there's a mountain bike race in Tucson that we might hit, as a pre-Worlds tune-up.
Yep.
But after Worlds, I don't have any plans. I sort of maybe just reevaluate what I want to do next year and what the options are, and kind of, I don't know, see how I feel.
Okay. Maybe see you at Fat Bike Worlds. I don't know if it's going to be back in Crested Butte. I haven't heard yet on that, but
I don't know.
A lot of opportunities. So anyway, thank you so much for being our guest on Adventure Live. This is Dave from Race Sick Go Adventures. Suzie, thank you so much. Always great seeing you. Wish you much success. Hopefully Worlds happens and you have a kick butt performance.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely reach out as we head west, which will be in the not too distant future, and keep you informed as some of our events out there start to develop. So thank you so much. It's great seeing you again.
Thanks, you too.
Have a great day.
You too.